Hey everyone, welcome to the July edition of Community Call from ToolJet. I'm super excited to invite you all to this call today. In today's call, we'll be discussing about what are the new features and releases that we have on ToolJet, and also we'll be building a legal document review and approval application with ToolJet database. So without any further ado, let's jump onto the agenda of the call. So we'll start the call with the ToolJet database updates and some of the updates that we have on REST API data source. Then we'll proceed to build the legal document review and approval application. We'll be previewing the application first before we start building it, and then we'll be giving you an overview of the table structure that we have for the application, and then we'll jump on to the ToolJet's app builder to start building the application. Lastly, we'll be opening the floor for questions and queries if you have any. Talking about the updates, for ToolJet database, we have two major updates. First is the aggregate and group by functionality that we have added. And second is the date and time data type that we have on ToolJet database. We have also added cookie support in the REST API data sources, and we have introduced a manual toggle for retrying failed REST API requests. So I'll be showing you all these updates on like how they look on UI as well. Talking about the first one, whenever you add a ToolJet DB query to your query manager, you will see two new options now. First is the aggregate, second is group by. In aggregate, you'll see we have introduced two functions. First is sum and second is count. Whenever you add a new column to your ToolJet database now onwards, you'll see that there is a date with time or data type that has been introduced. You can select that to save your timestamps to the ToolJet database. We have also introduced cookie support. As you can see, whenever you add your REST API data sources, you can add a global cookie. As you can see on right hand side, whenever you test your connection and add the base URL, at that point of time you can add your cookie. Else if you want to add it during the query manager phase, in query manager also you can add a cookie as per your requirements. We have introduced this toggle for retry on network error. So by default this will be true. So ToolJet tries to hit the API endpoint 3 times before it declares the query as a failed query. If you turn this off, ToolJet will just try it once, and if it is a failed query, it will consider it as a failed query. There are two ways you can do it. One is again when you add your data source, and there is again a different option when you add the query in your ToolJet query manager. There also you have an option to change the toggle based on your requirements again. So all these features that I just mentioned are available on the pre-release version of ToolJet. Now I'll show you a quick demo on the application that we are going to build. Once that is done, we'll build the application from scratch in the ToolJet's app builder. So this is the application that we are going to build. These are all the queries. You can see that we have everything starting from ToolJet DB queries, and also we have AWS queries, and we have also run.js query in order to show these items that you can see in the in these boxes. Okay, cool. So this is the overview, and then we have status by user. So you can select users from here, and once you select the user, you will see the corresponding status count. Like how many documents are under approved, how many documents are under pending, how many are rejected, and then we have documents by users. So like corresponding to each user, how many documents are there, that it will be shown in that particular column. Now next we have manage users. So in manage users we have this table where you can add your users. You can add their name and email, and then once you submit, it will just be added here. Then we have upload documents. So you can write the field name and name of the user that you want to add, and then you can add your PDF corresponding to that. And lastly, we have the manage document page, where you can uh, select any of these user names and the corresponding document statuses, and here you can view the document, or also if you want to change the status. For example, I want to change the status to approved. I can just change it and you can see that it got approved. So we have approved status for that particular document. So yeah, this is how we can um, like, this is the application and this is something that we are going to build now. So let me quickly go to this application, and yeah, this is the blank canvas. So we'll be start building the application from scratch in this ToolJet's canvas. So here in this application we have in total 4 pages. So let's create the pages first and then we'll start building application in each of these. First is the dashboard. Next we have manage users. Then we have upload documents. And last is manage documents. Cool. So the first page that we'll be building is the manage users. So let's start with building the header container, and this header container is something that we are going to use in each and every page. So this will be a reusable component. Okay. The color we want here is a shade of blue. I already have hex with me, hex color code with me, so I'll just put it here. Okay, now let's drag and drop the text component. So here we'll be writing legal document review and approval system. So I have content with me, I'll just put it here, and yeah, let's change the color here to white and let's make it 22 and bold. Okay, let's make it bolder. Cool. We want some subheading also in this header, so I'll just copy paste this and we'll change the settings to 13 and normal. The content that we want in this is streamline your legal reviews. I'll just change it to that, and yeah, here we go. Let's increase the height a bit, and yeah, this looks nice. We also have, like, on right hand side we also need to add a logo, so let's add logo here, and let's change the alignment to right. Okay, cool. So this is the header component. So we'll be using this header component in each and every page. So what we'll do is, let's just paste this in all these components. So this is a good part of ToolJet, where you can just create your customized components and then you can reuse it anywhere, wherever you want to reuse, or if you want to modify, you can modify on top of the modification that you have already done. Cool. Now let's add a table. So this will be the users table. Okay, cool. Here also we'll be adding a small heading which will be similar to this, so I'll just paste this here, and this will be users. Color I want similar to what we have in the heading, so I'll just take this color and we'll use it in this. Okay, now we'll add a modal component that will help us add user in our database. So let's quickly add a modal component. Okay, the color of this button again will be similar to what we had for users, and cool. Let's change the title to add user, and also the trigger button text will be add user. Cool. So this should be small, and let's keep the height as 200 pixel. Cool, this is enough for us right now. And yeah, we'll be adding a button here to submit the name and email ID which we'll be adding. So this will be a submit button. Let's change it to submit, and color here again we'll be using the one which we used before. Okay, cool. Now let's add two text input. First will be for the name and second will be for the email. So here it will be name, and let's just copy paste it again and put it here, and will be email. Cool, name and email are done. So we are pretty much done with the UI. So now let's add queries for the same. Let's query to get user first. So let's add get user query. This will be get users, and I'll be using the users table, and operation will be list rows. Let's quickly run this. Okay, we're getting the data. Let's connect it with our table. It will be queries dot get users dot data. Cool, so we are getting the data now. Let's add one more query to add the users. Now it will be add user, and the table will be the users table, and operation is create row. Here we want to add two columns. First is name, second is email. For name we'll be opening this modal, and it is text input 2. So we'll be adding components dot text input 2 dot value. Okay, and first will be the text input 1. Okay, cool. So here we will be adding the event handler as well. So whenever we'll be adding 3 event handlers here. Also for get users we want to run this on load, so just make sure you just turn this on. Okay, coming to add users, here we want to show a modal first that that will be a success modal showing that the user got saved. So user added. Okay, then we want to close the modal as well, so we'll be using close modal event. Cool, and last is we want to refresh the data of get user, so we'll be running the get user query. Cool, so these are done. So let's quickly test this. Let's add a button, and here let's add an event handler for add user. Okay, cool, let's test this out now. Let's add Tom, and here will be tom@gmail.com, and if I click on submit, cool, it got added and we are able to see it here. We can also change the column here, like you want to rename it, you can rename it from here. If you want to change the order, you can change it from here, and if you want to delete, you can also delete it from here. So yeah, cool. So we're done with the first part of it. Now let's go to the second part. Okay, so here is the upload document page where we want to upload the document. So we'll be adding a container here, and let's change the width to this much. Okay, this looks good. Cool, now let's stretch it to the bottom. Okay, all right, so this is where we'll be uploading the documents. So let's add a header for this container. Before we add headers, let's add a divider and border to this container. Okay, so let's take the border radius as 8 and border color as light gray. Okay, let's add divider. Okay, divide the color as this. Cool. Let's add a text component now inside of this. So this will be upload documents, and let's stretch this out, and styles will be color. I want something that we have already on the header, so we'll just take this and we'll add the color here. We'll be adding size as 20 and it should be bold. Okay, cool. This looks good. Let's add a text input and a drop down component to select the user. The text input will be here. Let me remove the label, so I'll be adding the manual label. This is the way I prefer to use the label, so that we can adjust it according to our design. First is the text input, second is the drop down. So you can select the drop down. Here also I'll be using the manual label. So yep. Okay, all right, let me just adjust it a bit, and yeah, cool. Let's add text labels here. First will be field, and second will be the name. Okay, so let's add it here and name here. All right, now let's add the file picker component. So let's increase the width and height. So we need some space to add a button at the bottom, so we'll just keep it like this. All right, let's add a button here. Okay, let's stretch it a bit, and yeah, cool. Button will be the submit button. Again, the color we want similar to what we had in previous buttons. It will be submit button, and let's add the color to this. All right, so for the drop down we need to add a query from the get user query, so that we can show the names and we can take the IDs from there. I missed showing you the table structure, so let me quickly do that first, so that I can show you how the data we are storing in the data sources, the ToolJet database. So this will take us to the ToolJet database. So we have the users table here. You can see that we have just added Tom. It is showing over here, and then we have documents, and in documents we have user ID as our foreign keys. So you can add a foreign key relation in ToolJet database. So I have added a foreign key relation here, so I can store the IDs of users, so that later on whenever I join the table or perform any kind of other operation, it will be helpful for me. So we have status, submitted at, and approved at. So as I mentioned, we have the new date and timestamp data type. That's what I have used over here. So you can add date and time timestamp. So yeah, this is how the table structure is for our application. And let's move back to the app now. So now I'll get this user from get users query. So let's quickly do that. It will be queries dot get users data and map. Okay, then I'll just use I dot name, and you can see that we are getting names here. And last is we need IDs, because we want to store IDs in the table, so we are using IDs. Cool. Now here, make sure you change this to PDF. It should be PDF, so that we just take PDF as the input file which are accepted in this component. Now let's create queries. We will be creating two queries. First will be a ToolJetDB query that will help us store the data of the document. So it will be add doc data, Okay, let me just stretch this out. Table will be the documents table, and here we will create row. Let's add columns. First will be the user ID, second will be the title, status. Okay, this will be status and this will be submitted at. Cool. Here we'll be using component dot drop down dot value. Okay, we'll be getting the user IDs because the values are the IDs here, and here will be components dot it should be input 1, so text input 1 dot value. Okay, and then we have the status is pending, and here we'll be storing the current timestamp. So ToolJet supports the moment.js library, so we'll be using that only to store the current timestamp. So this is how you can do it, moment.format, and it will get you the current timestamp. Cool. So yeah, we are good to go. So whenever this is done, what we want to do two things. First is we want to show a success alert of data stored or data saved, and then we want to run another query, and the query is we'll be creating a second query is add doc to S3. Okay, so let's go to this, and here we want to run this add doc to S3 query. Okay, cool. So this particular query will help us to store the document in the AWS S3 bucket. Make sure you have set up the data source as AWS S3 data source in your workspace. Then only you'll be able to utilize this query. So we want to upload an object. The bucket will be I already have created the bucket. Make sure you also have created a bucket first. And then keys will be utilizing the key that we get from the latest item that has been stored, the ID of the latest item that has been stored. So this is how you can do it. We are getting add doc data, and we are just taking the first item out of it. For content type and upload data, both of these will be taking from the component, from the file picker component. Okay, so yeah, and data URL again will be the same. You can just paste it. Yeah, and encoding will be base 64. Cool. So once this query is successful, we want to just show a success bar of document saved. Okay, cool. This is done. So let's test this out. We'll be using an event handler on this button to run the query. Query will be the add doc data, and this will run another query once that is successful. Okay, let's try doing that. Let's say policy something, and then you can select the name. Let's add Tom, and then here you can select the PDFs that you have in your device. And then let's try to save this. Data saved and document saved. So both of the query were successful, and now everything is successfully saved in our ToolJet database and also into the AWS bucket. The next page that we want to build is the manage document, and this is the most important page where you can approve, reject, and view the documents. Okay, so for this we'll be having a table and a container. Okay, so this is the table and a container now here. All right, and here again we'll be adding a divider. let's increase the size a bit. Okay, let's stretch the divider. Here also in divider we'll be adding a border color of little light gray just to style it a bit. So let's add border radius of 8 and border color to this. Cool. Now let's add color to the divider as well. Okay, all right, this is done. So we have added both of these border colors, and let's add a text here. The text will be document details. Okay, and let's stretch this, let's center align and make this 16 and make it bold. All right, let's increase the size to 20. Okay, let's make it just 20. All right, now we also have to add so whenever I click on any of these details that I have, there should be corresponding data showing in the container. So we have to add 4-5 things which will be corresponding to that item that we have selected. So we'll be using markdown here to add all the data so that we don't have to add an individual data in each of these. So we go to markdown, you can see that we are adding name, email, document, status and submitted at. This is how it is looking right now. Let's change the line height to 3 and also let's increase this to 15. All right, this is looking good right now, so let's just adjust this. All right, now we'll add buttons. We'll be adding 3 buttons. First will be to view the document and other will be to reject and approve. We'll be styling this once I just am done with the placement of the buttons, then I can start focusing on the styling. Okay, cool. All right, the first will be view document, and for this the background will be white. So let's go to styles. Background should be white and text color will be a shade of gray, and border will also be a little lighter shade of gray. Okay, cool. So we are done with the first button. Now second is approve. Okay, and here you can see that this will be background will be white again. So let me just change this to white. Then text will be and border will be cool. Now we are just left with one button, that is reject button. Let's quickly change it to background will be white and text will be red and this also will be red. Cool. All right, this should be reject. All right, so the UI for this is completed. Now let's start building queries. First query is to get the doc data and show it in this table. So in order to get the data that we need, we'll be joining 2 tables here. First will be the document table. So let's select document table and here we'll be joining table. As I mentioned, we have a foreign key relation with users, so we can directly get the joined data of both these tables. You can also select the items, the columns that you want here. I do not want ID, and here I do not want approve at and rejected at. So rest of the things you can I'll keep checked because I'll need all of these. Cool. Let's try to run this, and you can see I got the result. Let's connect these. For example, let's go to queries dot get doc data dot result. Okay, and here we do not want a document ID, email, and submitted at. We just want 3 things here. So let's see if it is visible. You can see that we got all 3 of them right now, and whenever I click on any of these, it should show the corresponding item. So also one thing I want to mention here, make sure you add a sorting of ascending for document ID, so that whenever you update any of these, it should retain the order in which it was before. So you can add that, and we'll click like run this on load as well. All right, cool. So now right now you can see that this is all the data that we have for this, and document ID is 21 right now. So if I try to rerun this once, okay, got it. And if you see the query right now, the first query is of document ID 5, so let's add that as default. So let's add documents underscore ID 5 as default, so it will be checked and every time whenever we add a new change any of these with approve or reject. Now let's add the corresponding data into the text component that we are having here. So for that, I'll be selecting these from directly from here, and now you can see that I'm taking the data from the selected row, table.selected row, components or table.selected row. So this is how you can take the data of selected row. Whenever a particular row is selected, you can take the document title and also the submitted at. For submitted at, I have used moment.js library again to format the data as per my format. So now if I click outside, it should show me the data. Here also you can see that we are getting all sort of data, starting from name, email, document as well. It is there. We have also stored submitted at, which is stored as timestamp. So you can utilize that as well to show it. We are also having approved at and rejected at, which we'll be using now. So let's quickly start adding queries for that. So first query which we want to add is for view document. So we'll be going to AWS S3, and here we'll be adding the query to get the data. So we'll be adding get doc from S3. So yeah, and we'll need the signed URL, and bucket name again will be the same. It will make sure you use the same bucket so that you avoid errors while running the queries. For key, again we need to have the similar key which we used whenever we were when we were submitting the document. So this is how I will do it here. I'll again taking the document ID from the selected row, and yeah, this is done now. Now I'll be using this. Let's try running this once first, and okay, we're getting the URL here. Cool. So what I'll do is, for this I'll be adding 2 event handlers here. First will be to run the query, and second will be to open it in a different tab. So let's run the query, get doc from S3. Okay, and second will be to open web page, and URL will be queries get doc from S3 data.url. okay, all right, let's try it out for this one. Oh my bad, let me put back the button. Okay, let's try it out for Tom. We just added for that, and you can see that the document is here now. So this is how you can open items in new tab by adding an event handler of open web page. Okay, now let's quickly add two more queries. First will be to approve doc, and here I'll be again using documents, and here it will be update row, and make sure you add a filter, and id should be equal to components dot table 1 selected row documents underscore id. Cool. Now let's add columns here. First will be the status, and second will be approved at. These are the two items that we want to update. So status will be approved, and approved at, again here I want to add the current timestamp. So as I mentioned, we support the moment.js library, so you can add moment.format to get the current timestamp, which will be stored in the database. All right, and once this is done, we want to show an event handler, and also we want to refetch the data. So in event handler, we'll be adding a success of document approved. Okay, then next up we want to refetch the data of get doc data. So I'll just run get doc data. Also, whenever this will run, it will refetch the data. So what we want to do is, let's add a loader here. So to add the loader, let's go to loading state, and here you can add queries dot get doc data dot is loading. I'll be using similar loading for texts as well, because it will show undefined else if I don't add a loader over here, and that will not look good. So let's add loader here as well. Cool. So this is done. Let's add event handler to the button now. Cool. So yeah, we were adding the event handler here. So let's quickly run the query now. It will be approved doc, and in approved doc it should have all the items. Cool. All right, let's approve this, and okay, let me just recheck it once if everything is fine. Okay, I guess there is some issue with, okay, I have misspelled it. It should be document underscore id, and let's try it now. All right, it is working fine. So sometimes you misspell the query, and that's the reason sometimes we face some such type of errors. So make sure you are spelling your query items and objects correct. So yeah, I guess this is working fine. We'll be duplicating the query, so because this query, the reject query, is similar to what we already have. So reject doc, and it should be, sorry, my bad, it should be reject doc. And here we just need to make this as rejected, and in settings we'll be adding this as document rejected and success. Okay, here also we are refetching the data, and let's quickly add event handler here to run the query, and query is the reject doc. Okay, let's to check once again. In reject doc, the message should be rejected, And one more thing we missed here is it should be rejected at, so we stored the timestamp for rejected at. All right, let's try to reject this document, and okay, it got rejected. So yeah, things are working fine. Now let's move on to the dashboard. Okay, so this is the last thing that we're building in this today's community call. Let's start with the heading part of it. So heading should be dashboard. Okay, let's change this to dashboard, and the color here again will be using the one that we have for the header component. So let's change the color to this. Let's just copy it again and change the subheading to get quick overview of users and the documents and details. Since this is a dashboard, so we are just giving a quick short subheading to this. It should be 14, and it should not be bold, it should be normal. All right, cool. Now we'll be adding those boxes in which we show the data, and those are nothing but just text components. So we'll just adjust it, and here we will be adding the normal HTML to create those boxes. Okay, I'll show you how you can do it. So you can add the HTML as strong, and it will be total document, and then we need to add break tag so that we are on the second line, and then it will be small and small. Okay, cool. So we got the item ready. Let's just add border here now. So all three containers will have different borders, and the background for all three of the items should be white. So let's change the background to white and not the color. This is color. Let's change the color to blue, and here we'll be adding the background as white and border again with the same color. Okay, all right. So let's increase the width a bit. Yeah, this looks nice. So make sure they are center aligned. Let's copy this to, and we will be keeping this as total rejected, and spelling is incorrect, let me change, and last is approved. Okay, cool. So let's change the color for each of these now. So for approved, we want to add a green color for the border and the content. So let's change the color to blue, and for border also let's change the color to, my bad, it should be green. And last is for rejected, we want red color. So let's add red color here. Color should be red, and here it should be red again. Cool. Now we just need to add a tab component, which will be the last component for the application, and in this tab component we'll be adding a lot of tables. So this is done, and yeah, for the tables that we are using, we do not want border as per the design that we have, so we'll remove the borders from here. Okay, let's go to styles, here you can go to styles and change the border to white. Okay, so once you do that, the border will not be visible. Let's change the height to little closer. Okay, and okay, let's copy the components, the table components now. Cool. So here we have the table component, the first table. Let's increase the height of this to this much. Okay, and last is again one more table for overview. All right, cool. Let's change the tab names now. That first should be overview, second will be status by user, and last will be document count by users. Okay, so now let's quickly add queries for each of these, and then we are done with building the application. So last it will be get overview. All right, we got the data. So here again we will have join of two tables, and we'll be keeping all the details on both the tables. We'll just hide the IDs because that's something we do not want in the overview table. So let's add ID and user ID and just run this. Okay, it's working. So now let's quickly add queries dot get overview and data dot result. Okay, so now if you see in the table, you should get all the data. Okay, all the data is available here. And here we want a drop down for the user, and we already have one in the upload documents page. So we'll be taking the this drop down component from here, and you can use it in the dashboard page. Okay, going to the tab component, and here you can just paste it. Okay, let me close the other tabs meanwhile, so that, yeah, cool. Here again we'll add a label of name, and let's resize it a bit. Okay, you can see we are getting all the names here, and here we'll be using the aggregate function now, the one that we just mentioned in the beginning of the call. So we'll be using the aggregate and group by here. Cool. So let's first create a query with the name of get status by users. Okay, and here we'll be adding documents, we'll be joining the tables again. It should be with the users, and here I'll be adding aggregate. I'll be using count, and here I want count of status, so I'll go to status, and group by also I'll be using status. Make sure you add a filter here. What we want to filter is user ID should be equivalent to what we select in the drop down, so it should be component dot drop down dot value. Okay, cool. And yeah, if I make sure I select one first, and if I go and run, it gave me a result. Okay, and it gave me document count and status. All right, so we are getting users also we need, So we already are selecting the user from the drop down. So for each user that we are selecting, we'll be getting the data corresponding to that. So for us to get the data on drop down change, we'll be adding an event here to change it. So let's run the query, and query should be this one. Also, let's add a loading state here. It should be a queries dot get status dot is loading. Okay, cool. And let's add the same here, queries dot get status dot data dot result. All right, so this should be working now. For Jane Smith we are having, for Tom it is loading. Okay, we got one pending. So you can see that we are getting all the items here, like for each of the username. Cool. Coming to the last one, it is similar to what we have already, so I'll just duplicate the query and we'll change the name to get doc count by users. Okay, there are some changes that we need to make here. So first is, we do not want filter, so we'll just remove the filter, and here instead of status I'll be using document ID for count, and here we just want name and email of user. Okay, and when we run it, it should be working. Okay, it is working. So let's quickly add the data here. It should be queries dot get doc count by user dot data dot result. All right, so this is working now. You can see the data here that for each of the user we are having the corresponding documents that they have uploaded. So this is how you can use the aggregate sum. You can use sum also based on your requirements. We are left with one last thing, that is the adding the query for showing the correct status for each of these boxes. So let's quickly do that, and that will just be a run.js query, and this will be get doc count. Okay, here we'll just I already have the code with me, so I'll be using that only. So I'll be using JavaScript here to get me and filter me the data. So I'm just getting the data from get overview query, then we'll be using this function, and it will return me the corresponding item for each of these. Okay, you can use Python as well if you want to. So it's based on your whatever suits you, you can use that. You can see that for total I'm getting 6, approved 4 and rejected 1. So I'll be using that here. Now I can add the query here, and now if it should show the correct item. Here it will be approved, and here it should be rejected. Okay, all right, so we are getting the updated data in the dashboard now. So everything is working fine. Getting overview, we are getting all type of data, and we have created all the pages. So yeah, this is how you build your legal document review and approval application. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial of building the application using the new features that we had. We added timestamps as well. You can see we had added timestamps for submitted at and approved at, and also rejected at, and we have also used aggregate and group by functions. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the this particular session, and I'll be opening the chat now. So if you have any questions, queries, we can take it now for a few minutes. Okay, so if there are no questions, we'll be closing the call. Thank you so much everyone for joining this call. You can check out our tutorial on blogs.tooljet.com, and we'll be uploading this tutorial soon on our YouTube channel. Make sure to check out our events page, tooljet.com/events, to stay updated with all the events and webinars that we do for the community.